Citizens of Psy, we need to discuss miserable headlines. Let's go.
Cybernation Uncensored.
All right, what are miserable headlines? Well, basically, it's a tool to add a layer of chaos on top of your campaign here in Cyborg, as if Cyborg could get any more chaotic. Well, it can. You basically inject these miserable headlines and watch the role play happen, because that's what it's all about. These miserable headlines are basically injecting crazy stories into your campaign that really, don't have anything to do directly with the campaign, but you take them and you make them have to do with your PCs and make sure that it has some interaction, basically, and all of them are miserable and crazy. But before I get into some examples and get any further, let's first discuss exactly what they are straight from the book, because I love the way that they word things and give little examples and put style over substance pretty much everywhere that they can in this book. It's amazing. So look, listen here. So this wretched world's continuous ruin is fully covered by corp-owned propaganda machines, news teams twisting truth into fear-mongering ad campaigns. But every once in a while, actual terrible truths emerge from this cacophony of lies. Basically these miserable headlines are going to be implemented as often as you want based on the die that you roll. And you're going to do that every day at midnight. So basically the game master rolls that die at midnight, and if you get a 1, it activates a miserable headline. So, like I said, how often that happens depends on the die. So you'll see down here, it kind of talks about quarterly, monthly, bi-weekly, weekly, constantly as examples of how often you might hit that 1 on that die roll. So if you want to hit those miserable headlines often, you're going to use a D4. As you can see, that gives you a 25% chance of hitting 1 and getting a miserable headline. And then, those chances kind of decrease of hitting a miserable headline as the die goes up, 6, 12, 20, up to D100, in which case, you got a 1% chance to hit a 1 on that D100 and trigger a miserable headline. Me personally, I want to flip a coin. I want a 50-50 chance to hit a miserable headline because they are amazing. And like I said, they add so much fun role play into the campaign. And if you've watched any of the teams that I run, we're just heavy into role play. Creating awesome stories together is, what tabletop role-playing games are all about. So when you have little tools and fun things like miserable headlines to use, yeah, you can bet that I'm going to use it as much as possible. But anyways, once you trigger it, if you hit a 1 on whatever die you choose to roll and you trigger a miserable headline, you then roll a D6 to determine which headline you hit. Now, the same headline isn't going to appear twice, so if you do hit the same headline, you got to re-roll that D6, okay? And then, every 7th miserable headline is automatically a 0 by 0, and I'll go over that in a moment because everything's got to reset, and it does it in a really fun way. But before I get there, let's show just a couple examples of miserable headlines, and then I'll kind of talk about how you might implement that into a campaign or something. But you can see here, let's say you roll on that D6, a 3, and then a 5. Here's your miserable headline. Tap water advisory. Water services have begun shutting off water all over Psy and cautioning those who still have access. No explanation has yet been given, save that consumption is incredibly dangerous. And you'll see here underneath that headline all these comments. It says 132,000 comments. This one here. Selling pre-EV water, sync F details, like someone's already commenting like, yo, I'm selling pre-EV water or whatever, which you would totally see people commenting, spamming a headline like that, trying to sell their shit, right? Then you see the next one, someone's like, just boil it, in all caps, like they're yelling, just boil it. Wait, why am I being deleted? And you see how they're saying like, why are they being deleted? And you see it glitching out their comment there. Yet another example of style over substance and how they implement that awesome style any chance they get throughout this book, just further setting the tone. Again, I can't express how much I fucking love Cyborg. It's so cool because of little details like that. But let's go over another example. This one says, economy in shambles. Catastrophic error or devious cyber attack. As of this morning, money lacks value, cred sticks malfunction, and all global financial data is corrupted. In short, All cred is useless with luck. Systems and backups are up again in D6 weeks. So you roll a D6 and see how many weeks it takes before systems are back up. You see some comments here. Where the actual fuck is my money? And the next one, okay, literally zero difference for my broke ass. I just, again, I love the comments they put. And then, let me mention here, like you read how these headlines kind of make sense to the city of Psy. They just add some kind of crazy role play options. But let's discuss that a little bit. Like imagine, them saying no more drinking tap water. It's, possibly contaminated or something like that. I mean, you and the players can come up with your own conspiracy theories, whatever campaign you're running. Be sure that if a player comes in contact with water or gets thirsty, or maybe other people that came in contact are infected and causing problems for the team, or maybe one directly. And look at those images that just popped up of shunned nanomancers. I was just going to mention, maybe the water is infected with some of that, bacteria, that nano robot bacteria stuff, that space dust, right? And maybe it's infecting people, giving them those sort of infectious, shunned nanomancer abilities and deformations. Maybe they're starting to see that around the city, or they have a chance to trigger their own triggers within by coming in contact with water. So you can see how that could role play in. And then yet another example in that whole money having no value and all systems down. Well, man, think about D6 weeks of that. Your team is no longer able just to go to the store and buy something, I imagine anything left, prices either skyrocket or maybe it all loses value like it mentions because the system's down, and maybe now everything is bartering. Maybe you're trading services. You need something? Well, you got to see what they need, and you got to hook them up with something you have or do a service to earn that product or whatever you're trying to buy. So you can see how that can absolutely mess up a campaign and just add a layer of chaos on top of it. So again, you see how these miserable headlines can really affect a campaign and make it chaotic and a lot of fun, and forcing players to really lean into some more fun role play. And let me tell you, those are just two little examples. There's D6 examples to hit, and you can also make up your own. You can start changing them, morphing them. But trust me, once you go through them, excuse me, you're going to see that you really don't need to adjust much except just make it about your campaign or part of city that they're in, or, incorporate maybe something that your PCs are doing, like, make sure there's a little interaction with that headline. But other than that, you don't really have to change much about it. You're going to see they're all crazy and perfect. And yeah, they're just a lot of fun. Okay, now look, that anytime you hit the seventh one, you're going to hit that 0 by 0 headline where everything resets. And this can go any number of ways. Let me get into it in a moment, but first let me read what 0 by 0 is. So the seventh headline will always be, are we living in a simulation? Rector Magnificus, Professor Dr. Duru Evren at SciU has found proof that the world is a simulation run by unknown entities. Evren could not be reached for further comment. In 12 hours, the simulation resets. Replay the entire campaign. Like, wait, what? I just thought that was crazy the first time I read it and realized, like, wow, how crazy is Cyborg, the city of Psy, and them to do this and put this right in the rules, right in the miserable headlines, that like every time you hit that seventh headline, which granted, it might only be once in a while depending on which die you roll, or if you're like me, you're flipping a coin, you got that 50-50 chance. You might hit that one a little more often, and get to that seventh headline. But regardless, however you get there, when you get there, you realize you're in a simulation and everything resets. I just love that. That is so fucking cyberpunk. That is so dystopian. I don't know. I could see that role played in any number of ways. Because it says start the campaign over. Are you realizing you're in a simulation in that campaign, that specific campaign, or is it the overall, like all those past headlines, all the past campaigns? Is it resetting at the beginning of like your session 0? Are you, as a GM, maybe get the okay with the players, how I would want to play it if the players were cool with going this extreme with it, that you reset and they all wake up out of the simulation as completely different characters, and those characters feel like a dream or something, and maybe every once in a while they glitch in and out to have a memory from that past character. I think you can really get crazy with that 0x0 headline or whatever. I think, depending on, like I said, how extreme you want to push it between you as a GM and the players will determine just how crazy those headlines, how miserable they can get, right? And to me, they may be miserable, but they're not miserable to me. I love, the chaos and the fucked up moments that make the role play exciting. And that's exactly what these miserable headlines do. They're exciting headlines, and especially when you hit that final seventh one, because it just opens the door for crazy simulation, reset, role play. Like I said, how are you going to do it? That campaign, do the players know? Do they wake up as themselves still? Do they realize they were in a simulation? Are you just resetting it? Do some of them know and maybe some don't? Maybe you roll dice and you see who knows they were in a simulation and who doesn't, and then are they going to try to convince the others, and like, is it contested roles? I don't know. I could just see so much fun there. Or do you just fully role play? Maybe there's no roles. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I'm running a team through Cyborg right now. I ran a team prior that didn't make it that far before we had to switch up. I don't know, how far we can take this. I hope to get to a 7th headline because I'd love to talk with the players about resetting the entire team and having them wake up as new characters. I think that would be the craziest reset. But hey, tell me how you did it. If you ran a team and you got all the way up to the 7th headline and you had to reset and they realized they're in a simulation, how did you do it? Did you reset that campaign, the entire team's history together? Are they new characters now? Like, fill me in. I'd be really excited to know because I love this game and I just love hearing more and more about it. I hope you do too. If you do, please give this video a like, give it a share, leave me a comment, subscribe to Cybernation Uncensored. Any little bit helps get more attention to what I'm doing here, what our community is doing, and this awesome game, Cyborg, by Free League Publishing and Stockholm Cartel. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.
Cybernation Uncensored.